everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Tingting Zhang. I have a doctoral degree in piano performance and pedagogy from Northwestern University Bienen School of Music. By the way, in case you wonder what pedagogy means, that's just a fancy word for method of teaching. I have been teaching piano for over 20 years now. I saw comments from some viewers saying I look too young to be a teacher. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. But seriously, teaching has been a big part of my life since I was 16. That's when I had my very first student, who is the daughter of my mom's friend. Since then, I've taught 4-year-old beginner, 75-year-old retiree, and anyone in between, including high school students, college undergraduates, and adult students. I love helping my students. It's a privilege for me to make some impact on their lives, and I learned so much from teaching. So doing YouTube is my way of giving back my humble knowledge and experience to people who love music. Today's video is all about beginning piano lessons. Over the years, I found many parents who started their kids on piano lessons had very little clue on what to expect or what should be taught in the first year. Especially here in the US, we have teachers coming from all over the world. You hear about the German school, the Russian school, and the Asian school. Well, we all have our own traditions and philosophies. Not to mention, every teacher has different personality, teaching style, and uses different method book or syllabus. That being said, there are fundamentals that should be included in every child's early piano training. In this video, I'm going to put the puzzle together for you, and I'll provide you a checklist which includes 5 fundamental elements that will help you navigate through the first year of piano lessons. No matter who you study with or where your teacher comes from, you will get a better understanding of the piano lessons, and you will know what are the good habits to develop and what are the pitfalls to avoid, so that you and your child are more likely to get the best experience possible. By the way, even though my discussion is centered around children, these fundamentals are also relevant to adult beginners. Perhaps the emphasis will be slightly different due to adults' mental and physical stage. The first key component is music reading skill. I put this on top of my list because the reading skill is critical to a student's progress. It will even determine how far a student can go on his or her musical journey. Over the years, I've met many transfer students who cannot read music, even after 2 to 3 years of piano lessons. Every time they were given a new piece, they really struggled. Not only was the process painfully slow, but also full of error. How can you expect a child to enjoy playing piano in that situation? The cause of the problem is that some teachers prefer to teach by rote, meaning the teacher plays something on piano and the students imitates and memorizes. So there's basically no music for students to see or to read. By the way, jazz musicians and pop artists learn to play by ear all the time, but that's a totally different subject. I'm talking about the early training in classical music. I can see why some teachers prefer to teach by rote instead of teaching the kids how to read notes. Well, it's easier at first because our kids are all very good at imitating. And it gives an instant gratification to both the parents and kids to make them feel like they can play something in a short period of time. However, in the long run, a poor reading skill can seriously hurt a student's confidence and desire to learn new music. Let's not underestimate our children's abilities to learn and to read. They're just like sponges, ready to absorb whatever you immerse them in. In this country, when most 5-year-olds attend kindergarten, they learn to read words. Music should be no different. In my opinion, the first year of piano study is the perfect time to introduce music notation to our students and to help them develop the reading skill. Especially reading piano music because we have treble clef and the bass clef. One is for right hand, the other is for left hand. In my 20 plus years of teaching, most of my 5-year beginners had no problem remembering their notes. In fact, it's more efficient to teach note reading right from the beginning because at this stage, the pieces are so simple. Usually, we play with just one hand, starting on middle C. Something like this, and by the way, this is the key right in the middle of the keyboard. Then gradually, we expand to 5 notes above and below middle C. And using 2 hands alternately. Then after several weeks, we learn to play hands together. Not on every note though, only a few notes at a time. And we learn the notes up to 2 octaves, so in this range. You see, the pace is slow enough that most young kids can handle the learning very well. On the contrary, if the kids didn't get to learn how to read music early on and only relied on listening and imitating their teachers, when the pieces become harder and harder, there are more and more notes to play, it's simply impossible for them to be the copycats anymore. And they have to relearn all of the notes all over again. What a waste of time. So if your kids just started taking piano lessons, make sure they get to learn how to read the notes right from the beginning. Here, I like to share a few tips. Whenever I teach a new piece, I ask my students to name the notes before they play. So my students will tell me the musical alphabet associated with each note, such as A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I know in Europe and Asia, people use do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si more often. Either way is fine, but saying out loud can greatly help the students to remember the notes they learn, to connect the alphabet letters with the notes they read and the keys they play on piano. It's such a small, simple step, yet has proven to be extremely effective. Parents can do this with kids at home too. Whenever they work on a new piece, you can ask them to name some notes. It doesn't have to be the entire piece, but the point is to help them make mental exercise and think about the notes actively. I also found some students tend to read fingerings instead of the actual notes. Well, that's because the beginning hand position is very predictable. Usually, we just use thumb on middle C, and then the second finger on the next key, D, and the third finger on E, etc. But after a while, our hand do need to move up and down, and your thumb won't play on middle C forever. Then reading fingering is not reliable anymore. So going back to my early point, kids do need to learn to read the notes properly. Another great tool for practicing note reading is the flashcards like these. They have been around for a long time. They have notes on one side, and then the back you have the answer. And you can easily find these on Amazon or any music store. Kids all love them because it feels like playing a game. Nowadays, there are also tons of apps you can download to your phone or iPad. I don't have a specific one to recommend, but you can search piano note speller or easy piano sight reading or music flashcards. They all serve the same purpose and are very convenient to use. The second component on the list is hand position. A proper hand position is the foundation of a healthy piano technique. It's like building a house. You need to have a solid and strong foundation to start with. There are 4 key elements to develop a good hand position, and I'll explain them one by one. Number 1, slightly curved fingers. When we curve our fingers, it closes the gap between our longest and shortest fingers. Therefore, all fingers can play more evenly and be more flexible. Number 2, Form an arch with your palm, like this. These knuckles serve like a bridge that connects your fingers with your palm. If your bridge collapses, look, this is not natural and it makes my hand feel tight and uncomfortable. Any weight or force you try to give to your fingers will be blocked, and the fingers cannot move freely with a collapsed palm. So the support of your arch, this part, is terribly important. In fact, if you watch Horowitz, even though his fingers were flat most of the time, he always had his bridge up. By the way, some of you might wonder, why can't the beginners play with flat fingers? Well, let me explain. Flat fingers are a more advanced way of playing. It's a great tool for pianists to create various colors and timbres. I had a detailed discussion on flat fingers versus curved fingers in one of my previous videos, How to Play Chopin Artistically, Part 2. Check that out if you're interested in learning more. But in short, playing with curved fingers is a basic hand position that cannot be skipped, just like a child who has to know how to walk before he can run. Exactly the same thing here. Number 3, play with firm fingertips, and the first joint must support. Having taught many students starting from Do Re Mi all the way up to play Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, Liszt, Rachmaninoff, etc., I would say having strong fingertips is the keystone to solve any technical challenges. Fingertips can also determine a student's tone quality. Let me give you an example. When we play big, fat, loud chords, such as a cadence at the end of a piece, you need a strong support from your fingertips to carry the weight coming down from your arms and upper body so that you can achieve this full and rich sound. Let me play the final chords from Beethoven Pathetic Piano Sonata, the first movement. On the other hand, when we play something soft, we also need firm fingertips so that there's a great clarity in every single note. For instance, the beginning of For Elise, it's pianissimo. Unfortunately, firm fingertips are often overlooked at the beginning level, and this will lead to big problems later on. That's why in many competitions, I hear some students who play very advanced repertoire, but they cannot produce a clear and full tone, and their dynamic range is also very limited. So as a parent, if you can and you care, please remind your kids to play with firm fingertips all the time. The last element is a supple and flexible wrist. It shouldn't be too high or too low, just about the same level as your hand, perhaps a little bit lower than your arch. Now, there are many ways to help young beginners to find a good hand position. For example, you can ask them to make a fist first, and then ask them to slightly open their hands, and that's it. Or you can ask them to arch their hands, and from the side it will look like a letter C. Another really simple way is to put their hands on their knees like this, and then slowly move back to the piano. See, that's the most natural and relaxed hand position. Based on my experience, most 6-year-old and older students can easily master the hand position. They just need to be reminded constantly. Students under the age of 5, however, are a different story. Their motor skills are not sufficient to do all of the above. So my philosophy is that don't push them, don't force them to do anything beyond their physical development. Be patient. After a few months, they will be able to do it. Alright, there are 3 other fundamentals that I will share with you in my next video. Please stay tuned. At the same time, you're welcome to leave any comments or questions you might have in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you for watching. If you like my content, remember to subscribe. See you in the next one.